Hey guys, Spirit of the Law here. We'll be getting some information about the upcoming South American civilizations, including bonuses and the different tech trees, giving a sense of how the three new civilizations are going to play out. The info for Tupi has been out for a couple of days, so let's dive in. They're categorized as an archer and infantry civilization, in contrast with Mapuche, who were cavalry and counter unit focused. Like last time, we'll start with the tech tree first to see what your options are before we think about how those are impacted by bonuses. Starting at the archery range, Tupi have almost fully upgraded arbalesters, skirmishers, and slingers, though we'll be lacking thumb ring, meaning the archer line in particular is going to miss out on a pretty good attack rate boost, plus a bit of extra accuracy. Just because it's very relevant here, I'll note that upgrades at the archery range cost half the usual food, saving 87 food on crossbow and 225 on the arbalester, plus a unique tech will also give the crossbow line poison damage in the late game. At the least, it seems like you can just fall back on playing the Civ as an archer into crossbow civilization even without thumb ring, which should still scale pretty well in the late game. Elite Skirmisher costs wood and gold to upgrade, so that isn't helped by their food upgrade discount and is basically going to be generic, while the Slingers here are going to have a boosted attack rate with a unique tech, so you have a couple of good options at the range. As for the barracks, they have the full Champy and Halberdier lines, with those upgrades also costing half the usual food from a bonus. They have squires for the faster movement, unlike Mapuche, plus a unique unit here called the Ibirapema Warrior. What we know about them is they deal full damage to all units in front of them at once, probably with a bit lower attack rate or something to offset that. Remember, Champy are replacing the militia line here as well, but we're told are worse than the militia line against cavalry, and are instead good against archers, so Champy are probably quite weak in melee. Ibirapema warriors are then your only meat shield that's going to be decent against other melee units in their own right, depending on how bunched up your opponent's units are and are caught in that area attack. We're also told the unit is pretty tanky as well, so I'm expecting a fairly high cost for this one, and we'll play around with it when I get my hands on the DLC. One thing to keep in mind is they're missing the final infantry attack upgrade, so the whole barracks is a bit lighter hitting in the late game. As for their siege, it's not bad, even having siege ram unlike Mapuche, but are lacking siege engineers, so I wouldn't exactly call it great. Likewise, their navy is also decent, in this case missing the final upgrade to their new Hulk line. Plus, in what seems to be a pattern for the new DLC civilizations, they're a bit light on defensive techs at the university. In this case, while they do have stone walls, they lack fortified walls, plus even masonry. I have the sense they're taking a lot of trade-offs in exchange for their strong archery range. By far, the most intriguing part of the Civ for me though is their castle unique unit, the Blackwood Archer. We know these are going to be cheap and trained in pairs, while costing half a pop space each, and you can see the elite version here in the middle gets pretty fancy looking. Archers are already pretty cheap to begin with, so we'll see what these end up costing, maybe 20 wood and 30 gold or something like that, with probably very weak stats, and are essentially a way to put Lanchester's laws favoring numbers over quality to the test. They do have that very useful sounding poison unique tech that also affects the crossbow line, which might be incredibly impactful against units like Gulam, Eagles, or Huskarls. It'll need some testing to say for sure, but the crossbow line already feels strong enough that even if Blackwood Archers end up being too weak, I think the Civ would be just fine. The settlement then replaces their various camps, like for the other Civs, though unlike Mapuche, they can't train trash units at those. So those are their various options, with basically good archers and a few choices of infantry to combine with those, along with respectable siege. Next, let's take a closer look at their bonuses to get a sense of which of these to prioritize. The first bonus is they start with plus 25 of each resource. I see this as a worse version of Lithuanians plus 100 food or Persians plus 50 food and wood, as gold and stone just aren't as critical to have early. To speculate on some of its impacts, the extra wood should make their early game a bit easier, particularly in placing settlements, as I assume those are going to cost at least 125 wood each, since it's a camp plus a house, and is possibly even more wood than that, since it can replace multiple camps at the same time. The extra 25 food to start will then just make things a bit smoother, and force dropping off with sheep, etc. to not be an issue. 25 extra stone is then more useful than your typical civilization might find it, as Champy can then build 5 outposts while keeping 200 stone in the bank for town centers, and the gold could also help with a Champy rush as their version of a men-at-arms opening. I suspect it's going to be a flexible, but ultimately kind of mid-tier Dark Age economy bonus. The next bonus reminds me a lot of Khmer, letting Tupi villagers garrison in settlements. A bonus to put villagers inside your camps sounds very good at saving them from scouts or archers, and might even be better than the Khmer garrisoning in houses, though hopefully settlements have low enough HP that men-at-arms could still be a threat to break in. It's the kind of bonus you may forget about in the heat of the moment, but will definitely save villagers consistently. I'm curious if players will see this as an invitation to not wall as often with Tupi as other civilizations, and put those resources into more aggression, knowing that your downside risk of being raided is reduced. I doubt the settlements fire arrows or anything like that, so the idle time could still add up, and walling is probably a good idea, but it's a nice bonus in an emergency if things are going sideways. The third bonus is their big one from a total resource perspective, which is that fallen units return 15% of their cost. Early game, you're probably hoping this doesn't come into play, or it sounds like you're throwing away units. But late game, that's a lot of gold especially that could get recycled. And it sounds like villagers also count for this as well, as it doesn't even specify military units. I do wonder a bit if this is the right civ for the bonus though, given their archer focus, and the fact it's super important to keep your archer numbers up in the mid game, whereas a melee focused civ would really benefit from that constant churn of units. Both this and the villagers garrisoning and settlement bonuses feel like they mostly come into play if you're already losing pretty badly, with your army lost and your villagers being raided. So the question is whether these are good enough bonuses in practice to actually reverse the momentum in games, or if they're coming into play too little too late, and if things are going well, you're almost playing without your two best bonuses. I'd almost call this an archer, infantry, and comeback civilization as their identity, based around these second and third bonuses here. The last bonus is then one we've kind of touched on already, with cheaper upgrade costs at the range and barracks, helping the crossbow and champy lines I suspect more than the others, with then a team bonus that towers and castles give plus 10 pop space. Castles already give 20 pop, but adding extra pop space from towers is pretty unique, and you do start with that 25 extra stone as well. It's a bit quirky as a team bonus, as other than Nomad, I feel like I don't see early towers in team games that often, and the devs have felt a bit anti-tower rush in Definitive Edition, making that a less popular strategy. But even just 30 pop space from castles is a nice sounding team bonus on its own. So those are their bonuses, giving you a jump start early with more resources, some resilience against early game raiding, cheaper upgrades for military units giving you some nice tech power spikes, and a trickle of resources throughout the game depending on how many units you're losing, which makes it feel like every stage of the game is covered here by something. Next, let's talk about their very impactful unique techs. The first lets your champy warriors and slingers attack 25% faster. I'm not sure if this is as good for slingers as the pass-through damage we saw from Mapuche, but it's always hard to go wrong with 25% more damage. I feel like the champy line is going to be the backbone of the new civilizations as advertised, and it sounds like your best way to add in mobility, since it's probably 2P's fastest land unit. It's curious to see this as a unique tech and not a civ bonus, which, reading between the lines, I interpret to mean they're afraid of making feudal age champy openings too good, and feel that's already a solid strategy. Remember, Japanese have 33% faster attacking men-at-arms, and yet here they seem to be afraid of 25% faster attacking champy in feudal. I feel like there's some hidden information in there. The other unique tech lets your foot archers and fortifications deal poison damage. Previously, we heard the Blackwood Archer would deal poison damage with unique tech, but as I already mentioned, it turns out this affects the archer line as well. Keep in mind, we don't know the amount of poison. Liao Dao's bleeding effect is 9 extra guaranteed damage, whereas I would put the over-under at about 3 damage for this if I were to speculate. The thing to keep in mind about poison damage is it's guaranteed and bypasses pierce armor, so in the right matchup that could be huge against some of your archer's scariest counters. That said, it almost definitely won't work against rams, mangonels, or scorpions, and this is probably an expensive unique tech as well. The poison on fortifications also presumably includes town centers, towers, and castles of course, which all just seems a bit less impactful than for archers. The fact towers are again being emphasized here is something to note though, with the civ having keeps plus arrow slits already, now with poison damage, 25 extra stone to start, plus they all give housing space. I'm very curious to see where this civ in particular lands balance-wise, which seems impossible to predict, especially without knowing a lot of the specifics. For example, are Blackwood Archers with poison going to completely dominate the late game, or is that very expensive to get to and easily countered by siege, so nobody does it? Likewise, if champions end up being strong, that could be the civ's go-to unit instead of archers, as it has the extra attack rate, the trickle of resources coming back to you as they go down, plus the cheaper food upgrades on those. It's all hard to say by inspection, but at least we get an idea at this point of some things to try. That'll do it for this one though, and I'm sure we'll be getting some info on the Muisca any day now to complete the set. If you haven't seen the Mapuche one, that's already been uploaded on my channel last week, with a completely different cavalry and counter unit emphasis. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.